Hello and welcome, everyone. Very excited to have all of you here with us. And from some of the questions and comments you submitted ahead of time, some of you are super clear on the difference in your own mind, and you're looking for language for how to explain the difference to others between a coach, somebody in HR, somebody who's a trainer, and somebody who's a manager. And kind of fun for me is some of you are, hey, what is the difference? And really getting the clarity for yourself. So it looks like it's going to be a great conversation. For those of you that did submit questions ahead of time, I think I've got them covered in the way this is put together. Of course, I want to invite more all the way through. We've got a quick 30 minutes. So what that means is if you have a question, type it in the question panel. I'll be watching that as we go, or raise your hand. And those of you that are brave enough to raise your hand, I'd love unmuting people and having you come in live and ask your questions if you're up for that. So you can do that too. Either option works. A couple of you did ask, will you have access to this again? And the response is yes. Each time we do a webinar like this, we put it on our YouTube channel, and everyone who registers, I actually send you a direct link to the recording so that you can go back and see it again. So thank you all of you for being here and for what you did submit ahead of time. Very much looking forward to you engaging as we go through the conversation. So what is our agenda for the conversation? First off, we're going to define the different roles. We will move into defining specific responsibilities for the roles. Then we'll talk about the impact of each role. We're going to explore the separation of roles and then the combination of roles. We'll explore blending coaching with the other roles. We'll talk, of course, resources, and then at the end, I'm happy to hang around and do additional Q&A time. So getting started with defining the roles. We're going to start with HR. And keep in mind, this is a big picture explanation. I am sure there's a lot more detail some of you are familiar with. This is to give that general understanding. So an HR professional is there to strategically manage people as business resources. They look at employee safety, compliance, they recruit and hire, they coordinate compensation and benefits, they suggest training and development strategies. When you look at the model from the Society for Human Resource Management, the competencies, and here's what I think is really interesting, include things that really dance with coaching. So relationship management, completely dancing with coaching. Of course, ethical management too. You have areas of HR expertise. Some coaches have the business acumen, some specialize in other areas. Critical evaluation is certainly something that comes into coaching. Global and cultural effectiveness is important in coaching. Leadership and navigation, absolutely. Consultation, and then of course communication. What's interesting to me is that they put coaching as a sub-competency under consultation. That's probably the last section I would have picked for that sub-competency because it's so much more in communication, relationship management, or even leadership and navigation. So that's where SHRM has it in their model. Now, in terms of being a trainer, if somebody is a trainer, they're there to develop talent. They assess needs or objectives in terms of doing that. They design and deliver content. They evaluate the results. The Association for Talent Development, which is where so many of our trainers develop themselves professionally, actually includes coaching as a core competency area. It makes a lot of sense. I'm guessing many of you are familiar with the study done by Personnel Management Association. When people attend a training program, there's an improvement in productivity of 22%. When you add a coaching element, that goes up to 88% improvement, 4 times the impact. So it absolutely makes sense to have coaching as a competency area. And it's a great skill set as a trainer. Now, in terms of a manager, what's their role? They supervise employees and ensure they're productive. Managers set objectives. They organize tasks. They motivate people. They communicate. And they look to improve processes and quality to develop people. Interesting article, 10 coaching skills every leader should master. And of course, there's so much out there in today's world. We consistently and increasingly talk about coaching as a basic skill set for anyone in a leadership capacity. This was a fun article, so I thought I'd share these with you. They want leaders who show empathy, remain curious, are able to recognize strengths in their people. They know how to partner with people. They ask open-ended questions. Practicing involved detachment. So they're involved, they're there, they're supportive, and they're giving control and ownership to the individual actually doing it. Crafting strategic vision for transformation. The nuance in coaching, of course, it's a process. We put the client in charge of developing it, whereas a manager will be involved in it also. Knowing how to develop your process, taking ownership of results, and being able to pick up on and give subtle communication. Now, let's define a coach. It's partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. One phrase that I use often to say, coaching is advanced development for advanced results. And it really speaks to this definition from the ICF. To further build on it in terms of defining the coach. Another definition ICF has out there is coaching itself is a strategic partnership in which the coach empowers the client to clarify goals, create action plans, move past obstacles, and achieve what the client chooses. There are a lot of articles that talk about the unique difference in coaching from the other roles is that with the other roles, that person in that role is the expert. Whereas in coaching, we're there with the process and the client is the expert. Very significant difference. Now, when we talk about coaching, the competency areas that we have include setting the foundation with our ethical guidelines and our coaching agreement, establishing that trust and really being present and in the moment with the client, our effective communication, listening to that deeper level. The type of questions we ask in coaching are completely different than any other type of question. Our language, we're positive, we're proactive, we're also very clear and succinct in the way we communicate. And we're there in our process creating awareness within the client because of the questions we ask, the exploration, supporting them as they design actions, planning and goal setting. And then, of course, we're accountability partners, acknowledging and celebrating progress and success, and then being there for that check-in of, yep, we've got that accountability. How do you want to manage it? Now let's talk responsibilities. For an HR professional, one of their responsibilities is ensuring compliance. Another is to recruit, interview, negotiate employment, hire people, onboard people. They prepare, update, and maintain employment records. They explain policies, procedures, laws, and standards. HR professionals document grievances, terminations, absences, performance, compensation, and benefits. They support evaluations and evaluation processes. They are there to develop employees. They work with succession planning. Alternatively, a trainer will assess training requirements, design specific training processes and content. They'll schedule and promote the training opportunities, deliver the actual training programs. Of course, often they're managing the budget for that process. They're evaluating the results. Now, for a manager, Their responsibilities include budgeting and budget management, providing direction and guidance, evaluating people, and then, of course, the planning side of it. The manager provides support to maximize performance, communicates objectives, processes, changes, and of course, motivating people to fully engage and be productive. And some of you are saying some managers do this really well, and yes, this is the objective, the ideal of what we want here. Now, as far as the coaches, what are their responsibilities? Well, it starts with their preparation before they start coaching, getting the training, having the code of ethics and the training on that, and having their agreements ready. It means co-creating the coaching relationship by being fully present in the moment with the client and establishing trust. It's a unique skill set to turn everything else off and be there, be with that client in that moment. We listen completely and cumulatively. So when we talk about listening completely, yes, with intention, we rephrase, we'll reflect back, gee, seems like you're feeling this, or we notice an energy shift. We listen cumulatively, which means we remember what they said last week or 2 weeks ago or before, and how it ties into what they're saying now. The way we communicate as coaches is with very clear and direct, which means succinct in terms of how much we say, and then very respectful language. And our questions, such a powerhouse in terms of outcomes. The way we ask what we ask is a game changer, and that's significant for us. Coaches are there to create awareness by challenging and expanding the thinking of the client. We empower the clients to develop their own action steps. We empower their planning and goal setting. And then we're there as the accountability partner. Some of you are familiar with these coaching competencies. Hopefully you're catching that theme as we go, because our competencies really are our responsibilities. As a coach, we agree, and this is specific actually to members of the International Coach Federation, which is really our gold standard in the coaching world, being a member, because when you're a member of the International Coach Federation, you agree to practice both the core competencies, and then also you pledge to be accountable to the code of ethics. And the reason companies more and more want to know their coaches are members of the ICF is because they're learning about these standards, and the awareness of that is growing. So it's more and more significant in terms of hiring coaches. So we've talked about the definitions of the different roles and the responsibilities. Now let's move into talking about the impact that each role has. So HR is there to support the organization by maximizing a key resource, the people inside the organization. Trainers are there improving workplace productivity by increasing knowledge or skills. Managers ensure the work advances the company objectives. And coaches empower individuals both to discover, because a lot of us really don't know, and then to maximize both personal and professional potential. So each role has a very important component, a part of the overall success. And just by looking at that, you start to get an idea of how they're different elements and they're all important. So let's talk about some of the separations between the different roles, and I'm hoping this is where I'm going to start generating some questions on your part. So be thinking about what you want to be asking here. So separating the roles. When you think about HR, all of the information is obtained for and owned by the organization. So all the documentation, all the conversations, the notes, everything. There's a full process for the record keeping, and it all belongs to the company. That's very, very different than what it is in coaching. Because in coaching, those records are only for the coach and the client. That's it. And sometimes people say, well, the company is the client. For those of you who have had the coach training, we separate the client from the company. The company is what we call the sponsor, and the client is the individual being coached. The information from that individual coaching session belongs to the client and the coach. The company has no access or ownership. So this is significantly different. A trainer is focused on organizational objectives, and they report back to the organization. So in coaching, oftentimes companies bring coaches in, and they want the coach working on specific objectives. And then it's the coach's responsibility to have the conversation with the company. Tell me what you want. Give me permission to express that to the client. Ultimately, the client is the one who chooses what they want to work on. And sometimes clients want to work on what the company objective is, and sometimes they don't. Now, as a coach, what can we do with that? We can ask the client the implications of not working on something the company wants, and we give them the choice. So it's important that we set that up ahead of time. It's very, very different than what happens if you're talking about a trainer. Now, as far as the manager, their responsibility is meeting organization objectives, and they have a very directive role in making that happen. The coach, alternatively, is completely focused on the individual client and empowering them. Now, a nuance to this, when we say individual client, sometimes we coach a group or a team. We consider each person on there an individual client because they're part of that group or that team. So a different focus, whereas the first three, you're really seeing what's happening is owned by the company and based on what the company wants. With the coach, the difference is the information and the process are completely focused on the individual involved. So that's a big separation. Now, how do they combine? Well, you saw the coaching was competencies in those other areas. So for HR professionals, it's an incredible skill set in the work that they do. HR professionals use coaching skills in their conversations. It is a sub-competency for them. Does that make them coaches? No, it makes learning coaching a valuable skill set to improve their skills in what they do. For trainers, same concept. It's a core competency for them, and using coaching skills when doing training programs enhances the training itself. For a manager, well, we're hearing so much more these days about having a coaching culture. I mentioned earlier, coaching being a leadership skill for anyone in management. It is incredibly significant to develop skill as a coach because you're going to apply those skills in those other conversations that you have. Now, what's interesting, and perhaps some of you have seen it, I wrote an article called The Paradox of Coaching. We actually did one of these webinars on that topic. And the paradox of coaching is that coaching is a skill set that is used in all of these different roles, and that the responsibilities of these different roles do not come into coaching. That's our paradox. So as far as coaching, how does it work with these others? Well, the skills help them with their own skills. It's a value add and upgrade, if you will. And then above and beyond that, we actually support individuals in those roles, either as their coach or coaching people they work with. And so by empowering individuals in those roles, or as a coach, taking their coaching skill into those roles, that's where they play together. That's where you have that combination. So what does that mean to all of us? Whatever your role, be really clear on what it is and be really clear on the separation. Here's an example for you. Very often, HR professionals and trainers do get trained as coaches, and they also do coaching. When you're working with people, it's about being really clear. Hey, this time right now, this is scheduled for training. This is training time. Or this time is scheduled for coaching. This is coaching time. And here's what the difference is, so that you're having that conversation with the individual being served and you're super clear which role is in play at which time. And you schedule it and you maintain the separation of roles in that conversation. So taking that into, hey, what does this really mean? Coaching competencies themselves, and we reviewed those 11 briefly, that equals coaching as a skill. Coaching skills enhance efforts in all of the other roles that we have. Now, let me give you a summary. Again, speaking to our competencies, we follow our code of ethics, we establish the agreement for the relationship, including separations, because here's a great example. Somebody who does career coaching very often will have an agreement that says, hey, we're going to do some training, we're going to do some consulting, and we're going to do some coaching. And we talk about what the different roles are, which one's in play when. So that agreement is a great tool for clarifying that and for setting it up. As a coach, it's our responsibility to establish the trust. Now, again, that's different. To a degree, when you're dealing with people in other roles, there's expectations of it versus it being something that's really worked on and created intentionally. It's the coach's job to be present, really listen, both to what's being said and what's not being said, and then ask those questions. Coaching questions are short, they're simple, they're open-ended, they probe and clarify. They're asked for the benefit of the client. Our communication is very positive, it's proactive, it demonstrates both a belief in the client and a belief in possibilities. We create awareness because of how we interact and the processes we use. We empower clients in the designing of their actions for doing their planning and goal setting. And in terms of being an accountability partner, we ask the client how they want to manage accountability, and we ask them how they want us to support them as an accountability partner. So what does all of this mean? Coaching is a skill set that adds value in all of our human interactions. A coaching relationship and the coaching process is a very intentional, focused, scheduled time. And we stick with what our role is, what our responsibilities are. At this point, I want to invite you all in with your questions. Type them in the question panel. Raise your hand. What do you want clarified? What do you want to explore further? Or what comments or insights do you want to share? And while I'm waiting for that, we do have some resources available to you. So, of course, we want to set that up as well. And I'm hoping you're all thinking and writing questions. So in terms of resources, one of the main things to be checking out is the International Coach Federation. This is the gold standard in terms of the ethics, the competencies. They approve training programs, and they have standards for membership. They have a credentialing process. So worth knowing about the International Coach Federation. Of course, the Center for Coaching Solutions is a resource for you, both for setting up, starting, and running coaching programs for supporting outcomes you want with coaching every step of the way. And then Center for Coaching Certification. So for people who are looking for that coach training and really developing yourself as a coach, taking it to that next level. The website for the International Coach Federation is coachfederation.org. They have information there for membership, credentialing, and you can find out all kinds of good stuff there. Lots of research and other resources. The Center for Coaching Certification. This is where training programs are offered, coaching services are offered. So you've got good access to all kinds of great information here. And then Center for Coaching Solutions. This is for outsourcing. And what's available to you here if you want to bring in people to do training, whether on leadership or coaching. What we look at doing there is we combine the training with the coaching services. We bring in coaches that are certified through the Center for Coaching Certification, so we know what the quality is. We are also there as a resource to support your coaching program, whether it's starting it, setting it up, evaluating it, upgrading or enhancing things, and then of course outsourcing coaches, because best practices is to have internal coaches for entry level to mid-level management, and then to have external coaches for your higher levels of management. So you've got that resource as well. Above and beyond that, lots of books, blogs, webinars were available as a quick check, and then the outsourcing. So very specifically, we have a blog at coachingblog.coachcert. There are books. Every year we publish a new book. The chapters are written by graduates of the program. I actually met with a group for this year's book earlier today, and very, very excited. There are so many intelligent people that write these chapters. You're going to love the content of what they create. It's very powerful. The webinars like this one, we have 30 minutes every month, 60 minutes every other month that are available to you. We ourselves are available whether you want to call or email for that quick check-in. And if you want more for the outsourcing with consulting for your program, training, whether in coaching or other areas, and then of course coaching itself. So what are next steps for you? We've got something for you, and that is a free consultation. Now, if you want that to become a coaching session, it can. If you want to talk about, hey, this is what I want to do with coaching or coaching in our program, we set that up as well. We're giving you 30 minutes. You get to choose how you want to use it. So I'll tell you how to access that. Another thing for you, of course, is choosing the resources that make sense for you. Get specific in terms of planning your process. Do it, implement it, make it happen, and achieving the results. So again, I want to open it up. I've got lots of you here, and real quiet in terms of asking questions or putting additional things in. So I'm thinking either such a great job explaining this, y'all got it 100,000%, you're unsure what to ask, you tell me. So let me know what your questions are. Very much looking for that. And to let all of you know, we're coming up to our wrap-up time. I'm happy to hang around as long as any of you are here and answer additional questions. In the meantime, recognizing that we did use our time, I do want to thank each and every one of you. So thank you for investing your time, for being here, for exploring this topic with us. And please do let us know how we can support your success, how we can be of service to you. So thank you all for being here on a Friday afternoon at that, well, earlier in the day for some of you, later for others. Thank you for being here. Very much enjoy having you. And we do look forward to being of service. So thank you, everyone.